right, my name is Cal.
Hi, Robin Gorsline.
Pleasure to meet you, Robert Gorsline. So what are you out here to do?
We are here to uphold the sacred value of love. Love between two men, two women, a man and a woman. It's all God's love, it's all sacred.
Right.
And we're here to advocate for that and to hold that up as a we say, love changes the world.
Right.
And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I love all of that. Yeah, I guess it shouldn't matter what your sexual preferences are, right?
That's right. That's
between a man or a woman with a woman, or a man and a man.
Exactly.
Okay, and what do you think of, I guess, I guess if you look at the foundational act of why government got involved with marriage to begin with, it started off as a very racist intervention. It was
and classist as well.
Yeah. It was
about rich people and white people, exactly.
Right, it was to prevent interracial
that's right.
marriages.
That's right.
So
Virginia has a 400-year history of during our history of having at least one group that's denied the right to marry. And it's about class, indentured servants who are white. It's about slaves. It's about biracial couples. It's about people with epilepsy. It's about people with mental disorders.
Right.
And it also had a lot to do also with sterilization routines and all this stuff of trying to have a pure race, almost like Hitler.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is embodied in these marital. Just say, well, no, you're not good enough to be married.
Right.
It's a form of social control.
And oh no, great! You have a good background in understanding history. Most people don't understand that. So sometimes, I guess for me, I would feel like the last place I would find any kind of solution would be from a racist and bigoted organization like the government, for example. I guess how do you feel then?
Well, okay. What I would say is this: there are two things. First of all, I'm married to my husband of 17 years.
Oh.
We have no legal ceremony. We've had a ceremony with friends and family.
The ritual.
And we've done that, and we're committed, we're married for life. So marriage happens without government, without anybody. Doesn't need the church, doesn't need anybody pronouncing
that's beautiful.
The Quakers, if you go to a Quaker wedding, they don't have anybody standing there saying, I pronounce you. They say it to each other.
Right.
So marriage happens. They can't stop marriage. What they are doing, though, is saying, well, your marriage doesn't count because there are 1,100 rights that are given by the government, by us, to some people, but not to you. So we're petitioning to change that.
Okay.
We're not asking to be married, actually. We're asking for legal recognition.
To be acknowledged.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I haven't heard that, I guess, that particular
perspective.
I like that. Okay, I guess in terms of rights then, right, do you feel that they're inalienable?
Oh, absolutely. Inalienable rights, absolutely.
Right. I guess so. We're born free, right? We're supposed to be
absolutely
free,
right. Exactly right.
So then, how do you feel about an organization granting us rights then?
I agree, but you see, then the thing is, we have the balance, I believe, between that individual identity and sense of God in us and who we are expressing ourselves to be. In that, we also live in a society, so we have to make some rules with each other.
Right, I agree.
And so part of this is about changing those rules. And so
but did you get consent?
The history, well, I wasn't here when some of those rules were made.
Right, so how do you feel about, rules enforced upon you?
You work to change them. That's what we're trying to do.
Right. Well, I guess you would say then that takes quite a long time to try to create change within the system.
Mostly, although in this case, it seems to be moving pretty fast.
Right, yeah. But I would say like a measured success after 200 years, that's quite a long time.
Well, except that the organization, for the cause of same-gender couples is more recent. Phenomenon, although they've been throughout history, obviously. There's never been a time in history that there weren't two men or two women living together, loving each other. Right. And that's just...
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I guess my last question would be, okay, if you didn't have government with the monopoly on law, with the monopoly on the rules, do you feel that we as a community can still create a voluntary society with consensual contracts to rules? Like, I agree to this rule, so you can have a polycentric legal system, you can have rich, diverse communities accepting with consensus with those particular rules.
I think in this, I would have to say I'm not quite there.
You're not there yet?
Because, well, I don't think I will ever be, because I actually do believe there are certain things that need to be guaranteed.
Like what?
Like the equality of everybody.
Right, yeah, as individuals.
Yes, and that has to be done in law.
Right. But so, this law doesn't recognize it. But what do you think about creating our own society with the law?
I want to change the one we have.
You want to stick your guns to it and try to go all the way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's worth it.
All right.
Because the people who don't agree also we need to work together.
Right.
We're not born separately. We are born together. So we have individuation.
Sure.
But we also have community. Sure. And we need to be in that community. And I wasn't born in Virginia, but it's my home. It's my home of choice.
This is my home too now.
And so I'm not leaving, and I'm not going to get married anywhere else. I mean, legally, I'm already married, but I'm going to, when it comes legal, as it will in a couple of years here, then my husband and I are going to get married.
Right.
And I want that for everybody.
Yeah.
And I want those people, the other people, to actually understand that freedom for themselves, because actually they're imprisoned.
Right.
And actually part of as a person of faith, I believe part of my role is not to go and lecture them or tell them they're wrong or anything like that, but to keep witnessing so that they'll begin to see it. Because
right.
they do, more and more people are seeing it all the time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
You take good care.
You too.
All right. Hello, my name is Cal. What is your name? Could you guess?
Jerry.
Jerry. And why are you out here today?
I'm out here because I think that everybody should be able to marry who they want in the place that they want, and not necessarily in another state. We need to be able to be married in our own state. I believe in the First Amendment. It says freedom of religion. I'm a religious person, and I think I should be able to be married by the church that approves of my marriage.
Right.
And that's why I'm here.
Now, I guess in context of like you're talking about amendment to constitutions, they also say separation of church and state. Now,
That's correct.
Do you feel that perhaps then government should be removed altogether from the institution?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
They should have no business in what in
But
affairs of what
unfortunately,
consenting adults do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we have to, stand up for our rights, because it is unfortunately a legislative thing. So
right.
We're here.
The other groups have found a way to use government against us and discriminate against other people, for example, other groups that are not like them.
That's correct.
Like in the history of the Marriage Act, it was to prevent interracial marriages and to license, and now you have to pay money to a stranger if you want to be recognized by the state.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I guess if you did have your own way, if there was no advocating group trying to prevent you from being close to the person that you love, would you find it perhaps be easier to just abolish the whole intervention the government has in the institution of marriage?
Absolutely.
Right.
I don't think the government should be involved in anybody's marriage or their bedroom. It's none of their business.
That's like polygamy in that sense, right? You're inviting the man or the state.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Cool. And I guess you said you've been married now for...
we've been married since 2008.
2008.
We got married in California. Unfortunately, we had to get married in California because we could not get married in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So.
And then I guess, so you guys moved back here? Or no, you just went there to
I went there just to get married.
Wow.
I've lived in Virginia for 33 years.
Right.
And there's no reason why I can't, and I've served this country, and I've served as a citizen in Norfolk. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to be married to who I love.
Right.
Absolutely no reason whatsoever.
So I guess in that sense, that goes again to like you being a citizen, you're forced to pay taxes to an organization that discriminates them.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay,
yes,
cool.
The government. So that's the real problem here.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you myself that government should be removed far from voluntary interactions, consensual interactions. Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming out.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Will you, I guess, inform us who you are and what are you doing out here today?
Yeah, I'm the Executive Director for Equality Virginia. My name is James Parrish, and today we're here because the Court of Appeals is hearing the marriage case. And so we're here to cheer on the two plaintiff couples and the Attorney General and give them a lot of support because we believe everyone should have the freedom to marry.
And what does marriage mean to you?
Marriage to our organization just means people being able to marry the person they love.
Right, without, I guess, interference or thereof, right?
Well, we just think that everyone should be able to marry the person they love, especially, what we're fighting for in Virginia is to be able to marry the person we love where we live.
Right. And then what's preventing that?
Well, we have a constitutional amendment, and so that's what the case is about. A federal judge in the Eastern District found that our state constitutional amendment banning marriage between two men or two women is unconstitutional on the federal level, and that was appealed. So now the Federal Court of District Appeals is hearing the case today.
Now, I guess in regards to the Constitution you're bringing up, it says there will also be a separation of church and state. I guess, how do you feel with that? Should government separate itself entirely from the institution of marriage?
Well, there is the side that thinks that there should be a civil marriage and then a religious marriage, and then the state should only be involved in the civil side of marriage. And those laws that our states have passed and the federal government passed that deal with married couples. Talking about the faith issue, we have many faith leaders here today who are in support of the freedom to marry, and so it's many people are mistaken when they think that the faith people don't support the freedom to marry.
Right. Yeah, I just had a great interview with one just earlier.
Yes.
I think that's wonderful, and I guess that's a private choice. That's a private ritual.
Right. You could even say separation of church and state. All those churches that believe in the freedom to marry, they're being the state is hindering them from practicing their religion, from being able to put the couples together they want to.
Right.
And so you can look at it from both sides.
Right. And I guess, and how do you feel being forced to, I guess, being involved in this particular, I guess, institution, in terms of government? Because of course you pay your taxes, you're forced to give the money that has, I guess, propped up and funded this, I guess, monopoly on law on these judges on these kind of court systems for many years, for decades. I guess, how do you feel being forced to pay for something or fund that goes against, I guess, your own principles?
Well, we just believe that I mean, that's the one thing we say as gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender Virginians. We are hardworking, tax-paying, as you said, and we want all the we want access to the benefits, rights, and responsibilities that all the institutions that our states provide, and one of those is marriage. There's also workplace. We can still be fired or not hired for being gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender.
And state levels, though, right?
Yeah. Well, there's no federal protection for that either.
Right.
So, as contributing members of society, we think we should have those same employment protections. We should have the freedom to marry the person we love and the financial security of raising our families.
Right. I guess that kind of covers all of it. But I guess I just wanted to ask, I guess, I mean, do you still feel, though, I mean, that's politics, that's still government being involved, and even in the state level, I mean, government at a local, at a state, at a national, federal level, there's still strangers, politicians being involved in your relationship.
That is true, but I mean, our tax system and our benefits laws are so entwined in the institution of marriage that, untwining that is a task much outside of Equality Virginia.
That's very true. That's very true.
Our job is just, we want to make sure that our community, as tax-paying, law-abiding citizens, are available to have that financial security, not be afraid of being fired at work, and be able to be productive citizens in our communities.
Right. And I guess the last question would be, if you had the freedom of economic choice, then would you prefer to have the freedom to choose where your taxes, where your money goes to? Because under government, you have no freedom of choice.
Well, I think if you ask most people, they would like to be able to check off boxes.
Yeah.
And that's and that's just not a mission statement of Equality Virginia, so it's not even something on.
Right. It's just on an individual level. Yeah.
Oh no.
The freedom to cancel or unsubscribe.
I think I think that if everyone got to pick and choose what we pay taxes on, we would probably have I don't know, nice community centers and nice roads.
Right. Thank you. Right. Yeah.
But no schools. I mean, who knows? It's the priority.
Whatever the market has a demand for, right?
Right. So that could be a little chaotic sometimes. But it was very nice meeting you.
Well, thank you for talking.
Lord, that you are the God, the judge of the heavens and of all the earth. And Lord, these prayers, Lord, are still before you. God, because you are timeless, because you are eternal. And Lord, so today we stand united. And Father, we agree also with President Abraham Lincoln.
Right, so I guess could you tell me who you are and what are you doing there today?
I'm Carmen. They do need more than my name, or
no, that's it.
Okay, well, I'm Carmen, and I basically just stand and support people who believe close to what I believe, and kind of, be an extra body to show and to not show them that they're not alone and I'm not alone.
Right. You're not alone in what?
In belief of the government doesn't need to, how do you put this? The government does not need to acknowledge marriage. That my beliefs are actually slightly different. I think government shouldn't have anything to do with marriage at all. But if in order to get to that point, getting it to an exclusive point of just a male and female, I think is one step towards that. Because I don't think, as far as from a Christian standpoint, I don't think there's any biblical support for the government codifying in their laws about marriage. If you want to make a contract for something, then make a contract. But as far as marriage is concerned, either can be wholly religious or just experiential.
Right. Well, that's a wonderful reply. So I mean, so like in the Constitution, we say separation of church and state. That means all levels of government are strangers or politicians being involved in the sanctimony or your religious preference, right?
Well, Thomas Jefferson used that phrase, separation of church and state. It's not actually in the Constitution, but I would say that the Constitution deals with laws, not necessarily with relationships. I think that it can encourage the relationships, like say tax credit for having children, which only heterosexuals can do.
It's kind of discriminates against single people then, right?
Well, they would have other ways of, well, number one, this is actually a different situation, because single people aren't necessarily contributing to societies that way. Single people actually, if you want to say getting a tax credit or a exemption or something, we have that through donating to charitable organizations, and those fall under a whole range of issues that you can get something for that for.
Right. But I mean, I would say people who marry also have the same access to those same deductions. But in terms of not having to be forced to pay as much taxes as another individual, single people are discriminated in that they have to pay more than someone who's married or have children, for example. But I guess that's another issue, another area. But in area, so I guess you're here today to, I guess, to help remove government from the institution.
Sorry, can I speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Which is wonderful. This is really good to hear. I guess involuntary interactions in areas that concern itself with love or marriage, however people want to define it, but for you, the way you define it, you want government removed from that relationship. Otherwise, that's like bigamy or polygamy, right? You have a stranger now that's being involved that shouldn't be there at all, right?
Well, more of it is I think it's not in the interest of government. The interest of government would be to have relationships or contracts, if you will, that would most provide for the public good. Children, in a sense, are human capital. They provide for the public good in that way.
They're future taxpayers?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So their best interest would be to encourage childbearing, and childbearing and child rearing would both be handled that's within heterosexual relationships. Science, research, and social sciences have shown that it's best that they would be in this relationship. So I wouldn't say that government should give certain exemptions to marriage, but through the products of marriage.
Right. All right, so you have the area that you stand is that heterosexual couples do better child rearing. I guess, how do you feel then with the high divorce rates that cause a lot of problems with children? I guess that still happens in heterosexual couples.
Well, I think that has a cultural beginnings, roots, because culture doesn't really celebrate marriage as much, and it's just even looking at television shows, in the way they mock it or they make fun of it. And people are encouraged, and also other families haven't been, in some cases moms and dads, haven't encouraged their children to look forward to being married and the benefits that comes with marriage and those sorts of things.
Right. I guess in the area, again, you're talking about how you want government removed from this, I guess, relationship with that you have, I guess, in terms of if you were with, in your marriage, right? What about then government removed from all voluntary consensual relationships that you do have, right? If there makes no sense for government to involve in your marriage life, well, how does it make sense for government to be involved in your economic matters and your personal matters?
Could you give an example?
For example, government has, government provided, established the Marriage Act, right? That's how government first got involved 200 years ago. And the reason they got involved in the Marriage Act was to prevent interracial marriages. So the only reason government got involved in the marriage business to begin with was for racial and bigotry reasons, to prevent white people from marrying black people, Hispanics, or Asians. So this is an organization that already has racist undertones and history of it, right? So you're already advocating.
What organization?
Government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, government established this to prevent interracial marriages. So this organization called government already has a racist background and history to it, and you're already advocating removal of this racist government in this particular one area of your life. Why not remove government from all areas of your life, since it already is, it discriminates already to begin with?
Well, that would depend on what you define the government's role to be.
Okay. So I would say I would define government has a monopoly on the services you and I want. Right? Government has a monopoly on roads, on law, on courts, on USPS, first-class mail, delivering pieces of paper. It's illegal and criminal for UPS or FedEx to deliver pieces of paper. They can only deliver packages. But you don't have the freedom to cancel and subscribe as you would any other service. Right? You don't have the freedom to unsubscribe from government monopoly on, I guess, marriage. Right? Nor do you have the freedom to compete entrepreneurially against the services to provide a better service that's not going to be harmful or abusive to you, the consumer. Right? So essentially, if you remove government, you have free market competition to cater to your preference and lifestyle. But under government, it's only their way. There's no other choices. Right?
Well, I would agree with that to an extent, because I think the government, its main role is to protect the liberties that people do have.
Do you say protection?
Not always. That's why I don't think.
All right, thanks so be honest, right?
I don't think they do a very good job at their main job. I think things like this and other issues is them overstepping their purpose.
Right.
So I would agree to the extent that they could be removed to other parts of our lives. I think we would have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Right. But would you then, you were talking about contracts earlier, would you prefer, would you not want to have a contract with that service? Would you not want to have a contract with the agency that's supposed to protect you? That any time you can cancel or unsubscribe or sue them, they could be held liable. You know, prosecutors are not held liable, they have immunity. So do the judges, so do many of the people who are supposed to provide you protection, right? So they have no liability for their actions. Would you not want a service that actually provides that? That you can sue them, they could be held liable. They're not protected by government immunity.
That, in a way, voting does do that. It doesn't work all the time because some people may not agree that...
You can't vote a judge out.
Oh, that's true.
You can't vote a state prosecutor out.
Again, that's true. But the reason for that is that people who do vote, people who appoint those people, should be able to appoint people that continue to represent the views of those people. And of course, like I said, it doesn't always work out. We do have, in a sense, that, but nothing really direct.
Right.
I'm not sure what it would look like if it was direct.
I guess if it was direct, it would be like any other service you pay for. Like Netflix tried to raise their prices overnight 2 years ago, and people are like, cancel, unsubscribe, I'm going to Hulu. Right? If Chick-fil-A was being discriminatory or McDonald's was being discriminatory, you don't go there, right? But you have choices. You go to Cookouts, right? But when government has a monopoly and they're being discriminated, there's nowhere else to go. They've outlawed competition, right? And I find that to be the source of a lot of these problems, especially here we are today in institutions that acknowledge this marriages, right? I want government to be removed, but there's no other place to go, right? They've outlawed any other entity to, I guess, acknowledge or recognize marriage.
Well, that's another thing. Do we really need people to recognize marriage? Because the recognizing marriage is to do, again, mostly with the tax code, from what I understand.
Right.
So, do we really need anyone to recognize marriage, assuming that it's between just these two people?
Right, exactly. I agree with that. Right, you don't need the acknowledgement of politicians. It could be, it's a ritual for the most part, right? Between you and the person you love and God, right? Or Jesus, or whoever, I guess how you define it. You don't need strangers to be involved with that, right? In a sense, that's what government does. You have to pay them, what, $50, $100 to have permission to acknowledge your marriage, right? To be entitled for the tax benefits, as they say. But of course, wouldn't you not want the freedom of economic opportunity to choose where your money goes to, right? In terms of taxes, nearly half your income is taken away from you. In terms of you add up local, state, federal, you add up sales tax, imports, tariffs, nearly half your income is taken away from government, and you don't have the economic freedom to say, I want to help the poor, but I don't want to fund war, right? And you know, of course, what happens if you don't pay your taxes? They have a nice cage waiting for you, right? I would say, would you not rather have a service in which you cancel or unsubscribe and didn't want to pay? Netflix doesn't threaten to send you to a cage, right? Unfortunately, this service the government provides has a cage involved if you're trying to say no. And I guess that's essentially, well, I guess I would want to go to a free and voluntary, consensual a society based on contracts, right? Something you really sign. You know, you can show me your mortgage contract, you can show me a contract with Netflix, but you can't show me your contract with government. Right. I guess how would you? Is that something that you would have an interest in?
I would have to see more details.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I would make a decision. On the surface, it sounds like a good idea to me, but I would definitely want to see what more of what that would look like.
Absolutely.
In terms of the real world.
Right. I guess in terms of the real world, it'd be like anything else that's government that's not involved. Like you have a contract with your AT&T. You have a contract, you go on eBay, they have rules, right? They have their own dispute resolution organization. They have their own regulations, you know? Your product doesn't look that safe because the stars are very like 1 out of 1 instead of 1 out of 5, or customer reviews are pretty bad, you know, so you don't do business with them. I guess you have a lot of examples that kind of do exist today with all these different services that you do pay for, and none of them force you at gunpoint to pay for them, right? It's not coercive, it's voluntary. And you have the freedom to compete. But you look again like at USPS, is illegal and criminal for FedEx or UPS to deliver pieces of paper, or for you to, for your own business and delivery post-class. And that's why they're $16 billion in debt. Right? When you have a monopoly on anything, the cost rises, quality decreases. Right? They have a monopoly on roads. So outside of here in Richmond, there's all these potholes. You know, it's like driving on the moon around here, right? Yeah, you can't choose the service to provide you better roads to better fill up those potholes, right? Essentially, that's kind of what it will look like. You have the freedom, economic freedom now to choose. How do you want your own resources? How do you want your own money to be allocated? Who can provide you the best service to meet your needs, right? Not a monopoly on services that doesn't look at you as a customer. You're not a customer. If they were, you could cancel and subscribe, right? Like for example, USPS, you know how they solve their problems with long lines? They remove the clocks from the inside. No, trust me. When you go to, if you ever go to the post office, look for clocks. That's how they solve it. As long as they're not looking at the time, you know, they won't know how long they've been waiting in line, right? But if you go to FedEx over here down the street, you know, they have clocks. You know, it's very clean. You look at their mailboxes, and that's what happens when you have a free market competition. They have an incentive for quality, right? To improve your care needs. With government, there's no incentive because they have no competition, right? So they have no incentive to improve. And things eventually stagnate and idle and depreciate in value. So I guess that's essentially, what a free voluntary society would look like. Better quality, cheaper goods. When you have freedom of competition, real choice, real freedom to choose, right? Real freedom to choose a legal system that acknowledges you and the sanctity of the marriage that you choose, right? Whereas in this one, you don't have a choice. It was decided before you were even born, right? So, I guess.
They're on the other side of the street.
Let's go over by.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
No? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so
Very
much.
welcome. Nice talking
I
to
don't
you.
believe I want one of them.
Oh, I know you do.
Nice idea with the umbrella.
Yes, I brought that. Me thinking, I'm going to be prepared in case it rains. But I was like, the sun is out. It is good for this too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You take good care.
You too.